Hello, everybody, and welcome to Boss Talks. I'm your host, Evan Happel. I am going to guide you through this episode today. We have a great guest for this episode 81, Megan Orser, or Smart Chick Megan, as she calls herself and others call her, predominantly due to the fact that her companies that she is CEO of are called Smart Apartment Solutions and Smart Moves LLC. So she is somebody that's always giving tidbits of information to others free of charge so that we can make this industry a better place for everybody. And well, she has a business too. So let's not get me wrong. She does charge for things. It's not all free, but she does do a great job of helping others be better in this industry of multifamily. And today we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about the IRO community, or the independent renter owners, and bring some more awareness and information around that. And I know I'm going to benefit from this discussion because I don't know a lot about this part of the industry, but she herself is a big part of it. She actually is one of the people that is, from the NAA standpoint, very involved, and I believe on a committee or some kind of, yes, committee. She's shaking her head yes for that, and goes to a lot of the different events, advocate, apartmentalize. She spoke at a lot of these different events as well. So she is somebody that is well informed and also just helping others to be informed as well. But it's not going to all be just serious business. We're also going to get Giphy with it. And if you don't know what a GIF is, well, you will by the end of this call. But I actually had the privilege of being on a call with her, and I believe the Mentor Matchmaker group, where she went over some of her tips and tricks on how to do GIFs and why you should even care. So we'll get into that as well. Before we get into it anymore, though, I work with Community Boss. We have a great solution to help manage your parking, your amenities, and mapping, wrapping it all together for a great way to manage your physical spaces, generate revenue, make it a good place for your residents to enjoy where they live, and make it fair, and also bring attention to all these great amenities and different aspects of your community that so often they get enticed with when they are being leased, but then they move in and they forget all about all these great parts of their community. So let's make sure they're using it, but have the opportunity as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. But today we're getting into it with Megan. Megan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Evan, and Community Boss, and Boss Talks, and the universe for letting me be here. And I have to say, I'm a big fan of Community Boss and all of their stuff. I don't get to use them yet, but I know someday I'm going to get to use your services and feel the magic, because I have been in a situation where parking is awful and it's hard to manage, and that would have been like a dream come true to me. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you for all the love you give us, even though you're not yet a user. I mean, I've seen you in pictures just wearing the boss bling out and about at, I think, one of the NAA events here recently. You were speaking, wearing it proudly. I very much appreciate that, and I
Yeah.
love it. And you're wearing it right now.
Well, and yes, and I keep it safely in my business card holder in my backpack, and always forget to bring jewelry. So it's always like I'm always happy that I have it, because I'm like, yeah, I always have my boss bling. I can put it on. People always ask me about it. So they're excited. So it gives me an opportunity then to tell them about you guys and why they should get to follow you and engage with your brand. And I haven't found anybody that's been like, well, that was a waste of my time. So
Well,
just
that's
keep
good.
doing what you're doing.
And I also appreciate the love you've given us. Like on, I don't really seek it out very much. Probably should do a better job. I'm learning as I go when it comes to podcasting. Even though this is almost 2 years into it, I still
Yeah.
only have a few reviews on Apple Podcasts. But I know people are seeing the show one way or another, whether it's on LinkedIn, YouTube, podcast, however they can consume it. It's all good. but I really appreciate your feedback and your review that you gave. Even just today, you did another one, and honestly, it really does speak a lot to me and helps me continue because
Oh, good.
doing this every week can be a lot, but
Yeah.
I really do appreciate it.
And we appreciate it too. And I mean, you could go find the comment, but essentially for the audience and for the podcasters, I found your podcast kind of late to the game. And when I did, I was lucky enough because I had almost like a year and a half of content that I could dive deep and listen. So as I drove to the trade shows or was going to the airport, I was able to just listen back to back, and I love every single one. There's a few of them that I listened to a couple of times that just were like, yes. Um, but I do, and I tell my mom, she's on the comment. I adore the necklace. I adore you. So I adore what you guys are doing.
Man, I'm blushing. Like that's so nice of you to say that and think that. And actually, I don't think there's anybody else that's probably listened to every single episode except for me because I edited it all. But
Yeah, I'm a little creeper, I guess. I'll go deep on people. I'm sorry. Like when I am a big fan of a brand, like I'm that person. Sorry.
no, it's good. Like if you find something good, you might as well know about it. And I tend to be like that too on things because I like to understand what it is that's important about things. So no, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Before we get any further into the show, though, there are my three questions that I like to ask. I'm sure you know them well because they haven't changed. My first question is when it comes to building community, professionally and personally, how is it that you go about that?
Yes. So this is the question that I think I've lost some sleep over because I'm like, oh, what do you say? There's so many good things, and how do you just put this into like, one pretty package? I kind of look at it as a recipe. I think you definitely have to have some of the hits that the other bosses have said: authenticity, trust, vulnerability. But for me personally, I think it's showing up. And I think a lot of people think, well, that's really simple. You just show up. But Woody Allen said, 90% of success is just showing up. And I think in some cases with mental health and just the challenges that we go through in life, sometimes just showing up is all we can do. And that's enough. And that's what I like to do is show up and be there, even if I have the podcast on or the live stream on in the background and I can't participate. One week I want to be there to show support. And I think when I find a person or a brand, or just something that I really lean to, I do go all in, and then I want to just show them like I'm here. Let's support. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think just from what I've experienced, just observing you, um, just your involvement in the industry is you're authentically yourself. Like you do some fun things that a lot of people don't do, like meme yourself. Uh,
Yeah.
not everybody's doing that, but it's fun and like we're gonna get into it or GIF, I guess. People are, they're gonna learn a little more about that, but
Yeah.
there's we can't take ourselves too seriously, right? Like I on this show, I mean, I've had to get over myself pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you learn a lot too. I mean, and I think that's something I've learned in the journey of pushing myself and doing hard things and showing up, is trying new things, is learning. But I don't want to rob myself of that journey. And I learned so much. And I think you'd say the same thing. You've got 2 years of consistently showing up week after week. And I even remember you saying when you used to stream to Instagram, and StreamYard isn't friendly to Instagram, and going
Yeah,
and learning all of those things and wanting to call it quits, and you didn't. We appreciate you as your community, but I think that's even the beauty, that journey and learning. And it's just, there's just so many awesome things that can come from that. And I love that. I love our industry. And I want to show up authentically. I want to push the envelope if I can. I think smart is that's what we're built with. That's what I inherited from our leader, my mom. And yeah, as we love this industry, we're going to show up big. We're going to show up loud, and authentically. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and we can get into that a little bit too
Yeah.
because you are a, I guess, how many generations? Second generation?
Yeah, I would say that. I say I don't do math in public, and that feels kind of math like. But yes, my mom, Dawn Ford, who is a legend in the industry, part of Tara's mentor matchmaker group, started the business in 2008 in a recession in Michigan, which, just doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But just out of frustration, she had several years as being a property operator. She owned her own management company. She worked in commercial, HOA. She did all the things. And she started to do some consulting, and it just kind of naturally turned into Smart. And on her birthday, on January 14th of 2008, she started Smart Apartment Solutions. And I dabbled. I was working on site at a really large property in Detroit right out of college, actually. And I worked. I didn't really know what she was doing, honestly. I mean, she just was always, let's just go 100%. And in 2012, I went full time. I left the operations side and went full time with Smart. And I know I couldn't. I'm very fortunate to have gotten to work with my mom, and I still do. She still hangs around and deals with me on a regular basis and helps me out with the math, with the CFO stuff, as she is lovingly nudging me into that. But just very fortunate because I grew up in the industry. I got a lot of exposure to it, and I got to see how to do it right. And she's always been involved in the associations and given back and gotten her credentials. I'm just very fortunate. And I purchased the business from her in December of 2022. And yeah, she's been there to support, but we've done some wild things. We've gone remote. We have virtual assistants that work for us. It's wild. And we run a management company. She's our broker. She's a broker for some other operators. So just living the dream here.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, someday I imagine I'll fully work for myself. I've run things, but I've never owned anything. And
Yeah.
so I'm always, when it comes to that, looking at other people, looking at owners, looking at people that have gone fully on their own. Um, yeah, there's risk and it can be scary, I guess, but at the same time, it's like it just means you care more and you put more effort into it, right? Because it means something.
It's wild. I'll tell you. I thought working directly, under her and getting ready for the succession, like I know what it's like to be a CEO. I know what the risks are like. I know what it feels like. I didn't know that until I actually stepped into her shoes, and it was humbling. And I have a lot more respect. I always have a lot of respect for her, but even more because it's wild. It's wild to just have you are at the end of the day, like the buck stops with you. Like you wonder all the time, am I making the right decisions? Am I going to screw this up? Are people going to trust me? All of the things. So it's wild, but it's worth it. And I can tell you that you're investing in yourself and what you believe in, and the people that you have, and the mission and the vision and the goals, 150%. And that feels awesome. That feels like being in a race car.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump in that race car someday.
Yeah,
Um,
good.
um, so my next question is when it comes to hospitality, how is it that you would bring that feeling of welcomeness and you belong here to some people that were visiting or whatever it is through food?
Yes. So I can cook okay. I don't think I'm the best, but if I let you come over to my house, which is rare, um, and I didn't do takeout, I can make a pretty decent what we call crock pot ribs. They're super easy. I figured out how to do it in COVID. One of my cousins writes me all the time for the recipe, but you just essentially like wash them, season them, let them sit overnight, drop them in a crock pot with a huge cut up white onion, maybe an ice cube or two, and you let them slow cook, and they are fall off the bone. They're easy. So I would do some macaroni and cheese, and I have been into like what they call icebox desserts. So if we're in the Midwest here, so it's usually like layers of Cool Whip and like vanilla wafers and bananas and banana pudding. Anything like that, I probably would put together, and that would be how I would show hospitality there. Hopefully, I would try to just not be like, why are these people in my house? And I don't know. I don't know. I just am a weird. I don't know. I think when Betsy Kirkpatrick talked, she's like, it would really stress me out, and that just spoke to me. Yeah, I think I would have an event somewhere else, and I would maybe bring food there or cater it. But yeah, it's like I said, it's like being in a race car, and house is the same way.
Well, and you can hospitality can mean a lot of different things. It could
Yeah,
mean that you host them somewhere else. It could
yeah,
mean you get takeout. It doesn't really matter. It's really like food's an aspect, and it could be a food that you love that somebody else makes.
yeah, yeah. And those ribs, I mean, I'm telling you, I get them at Aldi's when they're on sale or Costco, and it's just no better way to do it.
Yeah. No, actually, I can concur. I didn't ever do the boneless, but my dad always made, or sorry, he always made the boneless, not
Okay.
bone in, but in the crock pot. And
Mm,
he would, what is it? He would put it in the broiler first, stick it in the crock pot, put the um, barbecue sauce on them, and then just let
yeah,
them. So that was another
so
way
good.
he went about it. And they were always really good and just fall apart and delicious.
Yeah, you just don't
Yeah,
have to work that hard, guys. Work smart.
that's right. Yeah, it's all about smart, right?
Yeah, yeah,
All right. And then final question, when it comes to your caffeinated beverage of choice, what is your go-to?
yes. So I feel like I'm pretty simple. A good Americano, typically. The coffee mug typically is more where I'm at. Some of them have sentimental meaning to me, or they just fit all of the needs. They're a certain size. They can hold certain amount of cup of coffee. I have a Denver Broncos mug that my mom actually has now that was gifted to me by my best friend's dad when he passed away. And I'm from Colorado. And just it meant a lot. He never let anybody drink out of that cup, and now I have it, or my mom has it at her house. And so I like the nostalgia. I like that feeling. Um, if it's in the afternoon, I tend to drink like a V8 Splash or a Celsius or something. But I can go to bed right after I drink caffeine. So I am one of those
Wow.
people that I do have to drink it or I get a headache and I do feel laggy in the morning, but I can go right to sleep.
Jeez. So it makes you feel normal.
Yeah, I think it does. It does. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily do the same thing as it's supposed to, I guess, for everybody or keep me up for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for answering. So we do have a little bit of a audience here. Stephanie Linton, thanks for joining us. Uh,
Stephanie. Hi,
Dawn,
Stephanie.
your mother,
It's
is
my mom.
on. Jody Anderson from Oklahoma. Actually, he's somebody I used to work with. I don't know if you know Jody.
I don't,
Uh,
but fun fact, I was actually born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Midwest City
okay,
Hospital. Yep.
nice, awesome.
Yeah.
And then Adrian, thanks for being here.
Adrian.
And then Adam,
Adam.
do you
Adam,
know how
yeah.
to say his last name?
Um, I don't Mikaz, but I'm hopefully I didn't butcher it, Adam. But Adam is actually a friend of mine on Instagram, and he was in my very first Get Giphy with It class when I led that with Giphy artist Izzy from Izzy Ink
Okay,
Studios.
okay,
Yeah,
nice,
awesome.
awesome. All right, and then before we get into it too much more, let's just address what might be roaming in the background every
He
once in a
might.
while.
Boomer. Oh, he's sleeping. So we've got his stuffy ready, but yeah, he's sleeping. So hopefully he doesn't bark, but you might see his head pop up. If you do, Boomer, he's my English Mastiff, 221 pounds.
Oh my goodness. And you were telling me before the show that fully extended, he can get on top of the refrigerator?
Yeah, yeah. He likes to counter surf. He's just he's a whole experience. He has a lot of personality, and he is very food driven.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
so you just have to know. If you just know, like if you leave food on the counter, he is going to 100% try to get it. 100%. Just don't do it.
Is he slow
He's
moving, or is he, if he needs to or wants to, he'll get up and
he
go?
I think the only time he's slow is when I need him to go somewhere or we're on a walk. But no, when he has food, he's quick. He's kind of like a shark. I mean, when he sets his eyes on it, like before you know it, he's attacking it, and he's got the food. I mean, he once
That's
on my
funny.
mom's counter, like we had it for Christmas, a dinner at her house, and there was like part of a prime rib there, and he kept circling in the kitchen and coming back, and you have to tell him leave it, and we started to eat dessert, but we left it out. And Mr. Accountability, he jumped up and got it, and within like a matter of a split second had eaten like a half of, I don't even know how many pounds, but like several pounds of a prime rib, a very expensive prime rib.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's wow.
And he didn't get sick because he is like the Terminator.
Yeah. I'm sure he eats a lot of food.
Not really. He would like to, and that's maybe that's what's causing his search for food. The vet won't let me feed him more than like it's like 4 cups a day. He probably gets a little bit more than that, and we supplement with some like vegetables because I just feel bad for him. But they said because he's not an active dog like a golden retriever, he just doesn't need as much food. And I disagree. I mean, 221 pounds is a lot of weight to carry around on a very small diet. But
Yeah, no, seriously. That's me. Okay. I'm just gonna tell everybody how much I weigh, basically. But I must say, and when you're sedentary, which I typically am because I do this and sit on the computer all day long. Um, yeah, you got to watch what you eat, but it seems like he could eat a little more.
he thinks so too. And the household here agrees, but the vet is like, no. They said that he needs to lose weight, and that's, I mean, it's a challenge. If I'm being honest with you, he's what they consider a giant breed dog, and then there's like small dogs, medium dogs, and large, and that is what the rest of like the world kind of understands. Giant breed is a little different. Mastiffs, you don't see them a lot. Not a lot of people have them, and so vets don't always, I mean, I'm not going to say that my vet doesn't have experience, but the commonality of them treating them is a lot less. And so sometimes they get stuck in the, well, they shouldn't weigh this much because dogs don't weigh 221 pounds. And it's like, well, when they're solid muscle, he's like a bull, honestly. So he
Right.
does.
Yeah, no kidding.
Don't body shame him.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he could take most of us on. AJ, he's like 221, I weigh 180.
Yeah. And he is very gentle, but what he was bred to, their breed, way back in the day, was to guard like royal children. And so it's funny when he sees children, like he just gets very calm and docile and sits like a statue and stares, and he only wants to watch them and be around them. But he's not a violent dog. Even in the case, they say if someone was to try to break into our house, he would just lay on them, he would pin them down. So he would use his weight to his advantage until someone could come address the issue. So he's not going to bite
which
them.
which is
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. And he's intimidating. I mean,
Right.
so
Right. I'm sure if he coupled that with his loud bark, it would be all very much intimidating.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again,
Sure.
Boomer in the back, supporting, currently laying down on the job, but nonetheless, he's there. Well, Megan, I'd love to just get into it. You
Sure.
spoke a little bit about your history getting into the work you're doing, but I'd love to, pick it up and talk about what it is your company, you have multiple, what they do,
Sure.
companies do, and then we can kind of get into where you play the independent rental owners world. So
Sure.
Yeah, take it away.
So as I shared, my mom started Smart Apartment Solutions in 2008, but I think our career really started before that. She is one of the only people I know that went to college for real estate management. She did that back in the 80s at Ferris State, and her first job was in Oklahoma City, managing some assets there. And that's where I came into the picture. We quickly moved, probably at 6 months, to Phoenix. And then at 2, I moved to Colorado Springs, and that's where I grew up. And we just always were in property management. She had her management company, and she managed real estate on the side. In Colorado Springs, it's a big military town, and so she managed a lot of condos and houses and things for deployed military people. And so while they were overseas handling their business, she would take care of their homes. And then when they would come back, they could, keep it as a rental or move back into it. And so I just always remember real estate being in our life. When I was 16, she went back on site to work with one of the first the tax credit attorneys. So one of the attorneys that wrote the tax credit, the LIHTC law that we practice today, the very first community in Colorado Springs, and she did the lease up there. And cheap labor, she had me do cleaning. So I was cleaning apartments, and I came in I think, to get some more supplies, and I saw this couple standing there, and everybody was out on tours and really busy. And so I thought, well, I don't like to see people standing there. My mom taught me that's just, you always help people, you always answer the phone, you always greet people, just how it always is. And so I had been in the vacant apartments and the models, and I knew essentially where things were. And so I showed them around, and they leased the apartment. They had a dog. So at that point, we didn't take dogs, but they started taking dogs because I didn't know that. And I was 16, I leased my first apartment, and I was like, great, I don't ever want to be in that business. I didn't have any interest in real estate. I didn't want to do it at all. I think my mom wanted me to, and I was like, ugh. I wanted to make commercials. I loved, at that time, like the Budweiser frogs and just really funny commercials, Super Bowl commercials. And so I set my passion into communications, real estate, journalism, public relations, and I was going to make commercials. And I went to the University of Northern Colorado, and I got in the marketing department, and I did okay, but I could never get into the college that I wanted to. And at that time, we went through 9/11, and my mom moved back to Michigan, where she's from. And I kind of took a hard look at my life and thought, I don't really want to stay this far away from family in Colorado. And so I moved. I moved back to Michigan with her, and I went to the University of Michigan, in Flint. And that changed everything for me, because I didn't realize at that point you could transfer into a university with pretty decent grades and right into the program that you wanted. So fun fact, if you haven't made the college jump, I would tell you to maybe not start at the college of your dreams and try to get in the program unless you meet all of the boxes. But I got into a program, and I had wonderful instructors, and I struggled with math and learned that marketing really had a lot to do with statistics. And I didn't really know if that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to make commercials. And so I got to do some work with some of the advertising firms and some of my alma mater that had worked at Campbell Ewald, which is one of the largest advertising firms in America. And I just decided that that was not something I wanted to do. I had some obstacles with my school that stood in my way, but it turns out in advertising, you don't really get to be part of the big project. You might work on one small thing. It's very cutthroat. People seemed really stressed out there. And I had been at that time in college working temporary staffing, actually, on lease ups and as a leasing consultant. And so it just kind of naturally worked when I graduated from college. I got placed as a leasing manager and marketing director. And the property was 1,145 units. It had golf course, had a marina on a lake, had some
It's big.
wild occupancy. I think we had like 200 vacancies at the time.
Wow.
Just a lot of stuff going on, and I learned a lot. So after I left there, I went and worked as a troubleshooter, worked down in Naples, Florida. That's where I dealt with a bunch of parking issues. Turns out Florida has a lot of parking challenges, I found out. Hey, I wish Community Boss would have been there back in 2009. But that was fun. I mean, 2009 was, we were still in a really bad recession, if you guys remember, and Naples got hit really hard. They were giving, I think, 3 months away for concessions. The service industry, no one was going to the Ritz-Carlton there or building, beachfront houses at the time. And so we had to get really creative. And that's when I got to really lean into a lot of the things that my mom had taught me and really what I had learned in my career and kind of carve out some of our practices. And so I worked at Smart Apartment Solutions. Like I said, I went full time in 2012. In 2014, we actually started the management company Smart Moves. And that was just kind of out of frustration. We had some properties that came to us that no one would take because they were too small or they didn't fit the big property management plan. And so the owner still needed management, and that's where we got Smart Moves, and it kind of came out of frustration. We started Smart Moves. um, Fast forward a couple more years, my mom and I are at Capitol Day in Lansing, and we're talking to our local representatives, and he happened to have rental property that he didn't want to manage, and he asked my mom at the time, would you consider doing it? And we did. And so we managed for that representative for a couple of years. And then when he decided to sell his property, we purchased it. And my mom and I became independent rental owners. And at that time, I had just joined the Independent Rental Owners Committee at the National Apartment Association. And I first went there because I wanted to understand what was an independent rental owner. I knew that they existed in Ann Arbor in our market. Um, Heavily, but I didn't understand really how they worked. I had worked in big operations and I wanted to understand more of their challenges so maybe we could bring better membership. That was really my goal. What I got was a network and a wealth of knowledge and a community that really circled around and helped us through the processes as we've grown. That's where we've gotten our property management software. We partnered with who sponsors our committee with IRO, and I just fell in love with them. Some people say that their conversations are dry because they do really talk about daily operations, but I'm a nerd. I love that stuff. I love this industry, and I want to learn and hear. That just makes it better. Then that helps me, think about what are some tools that I can maybe create or someone else can create to make their lives better. But I started to notice there was this theme where people didn't really want to work with the IROs because they thought they're too small, or they don't bring a lot of value because they only have a couple of units or a couple of doors. And so we even found that problem when we were trying to get software. We kept being told, well, let us know when you hit 100 units and we'll work with you. And it's like, well, okay, but what do we do? One between 1 and 100, like it's still a lot of work to manage, and to try to manage it through Excel. I don't really understand that. So we're still trying to get off of Excel. So I think that's really where I started to get more passionate about it, because I saw that, I don't want to say it was mistreatment, but it definitely was some stereotypes. It definitely was, we didn't necessarily have the tools in the toolbox to play with and have all of these features. And when you come from big operations, you're used to having tools. You're used to having good screening and good property management software and all of this technology and systems. And to be told, no, that's not, you can't do that till you reach this, it just didn't go well with me. So I stayed on the committee. I got more involved, and Stephanie Anderson at the time was our liaison on the committee. And she said, you should really consider leadership. You should consider going for the chair position. And so that was in 2019. I let them know that I was interested. They started bringing me into the leadership fold. And in 2023, I served as the vice chair of the Independent Rental Owner Committee. And I now serve as the chair this year. That also came with a board position with NAA, which I did not know. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to be a board member. Learning as I go as what it's like to be on a very big board. I'm used to working on small boards. But what people need to understand, and what I'm hoping that they understand and take from the IROs this year, and my mission being the chair, is give us a second look. We are a very educated, informed group. We love technology. We love efficiency. We love things that are going to help make our lives easier, just like the big operators. And when you look at our industry, they kind of break us up into these buckets. And there are the 10 and above doors, and there are the 10 and below doors. And the 10 and up doors make up about 30% of our rental housing industry. But the 10 and below doors, the independent rental owners, make up over 70% of our industry. And so we really do need to look at the power. Even though we seem small, we are mighty, we are connected, and we're being activated, which is a good thing for us. But we want resources, we want membership, we want to be brought into the fold, we want to be considered when these decisions are being made about technology, about leases, about legislation, because these are me. This is my mom. We are the owners of these properties. One of our other owners is a truck driver. So these are real people. They're not bottomless pits of money, and they're really taking a leap on life. And I think when people start to understand that that's what an IRO is, and that you might be looking at one right in the mirror and not even realize it, then we should start looking at that from a more holistic approach. And so we're connected with legislation, and we're excited. We're excited to be part of the conversation at NAA this year. So I could talk for hours, but I know you don't have all that time.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. So an IRO, is it a 10 and under? Is that typical of the size?
So we do definitely have an identity crisis, and we have been
Okay.
working over the last couple of years. And actually, Chair Kanabe, Kurt Kanabe, he served twice, and in his first term, that was one of his missions, was to help kind of identify, or even just give a definition, so we could even start categorizing and seeing what our industry looks like. What we were able to land on is that yes, it's typically the 10 below doors, but we have a lot of IROs that maybe started with one door and have grown to 10,000 doors, and they still identify as an IRO because they're still really involved. So we also have fee managers that consider themselves IROs because the owner is really involved. So I would say, if you are an owner operator, or you work for an owner that is heavily involved in the daily operations, then you are an independent rental owner. So if your owner you don't know who they are, they don't ever talk to you, it's maybe an enterprise, then that's probably going to be more of like the 10 and plus, and you're going to see the bigger, larger communities. What I'm used to working on, the 300 units, the 1145. The IROs are going to be made up of single family homes, duplexes. We have a fourplex. Usually the 10, maybe 100 units or below could even be considered an IRO. So I know that's a big net to cast, but all are welcome. All are welcome. If you identify as an IRO, you have a place with us.
Got it. So is how much does NAA dedicate to that part of the industry versus, like, you're also involved with IROM, right?
Yep. Yes. Yes.
So
So
does IROM typically do a little bit more in that world, or I don't actually know that much about IROM, so
yeah, it's different because IROM and NAA are both great organizations, and that's why I say don't put all your eggs in one basket. But NAA really focuses on the unit count. So, and they look at the supplier members. So they count supplier members, and then they count the number of units. And so I think that's why it's been focused on the bigger operators. IRM hasn't really ever looked at unit count. They've always focused on the actual, like the credential holder. So to be a member of IRM, you either need to have a credential, so an ARM or a CPM, or I think a CCIM, or you need to be an industry partner, so a supplier partner that's joined as an industry partner. So It's different. I think that with IREM, you get a good mix of commercial and residential. It is very heavily driven based on the local chapter in the market. When my mom was the president of her local chapter in IREM in Colorado Springs, it was a very like split mix of apartments and commercial. I think here in Michigan, it's gone based on who's the president. Sometimes it's more residential if it's a residential president. If it's a president that's a more commercially based, then it's more HOA or condo or commercial. So it's hard to say, and that's why I say don't just go to one. I would say that NARPM probably traditionally has been more of a place where the independent rental owners have hung out because they have had a model for single family homes and managing that type of model for a little bit longer. But I think for NAA, they're definitely paying attention to it. It's been a huge part of conversation. The last quarter of 2023 was a big focus for the board, and as I'm a board member, but even with the executive committee, is how can we bring IROs into the fold? And so they are doing some surveys actually right now that they did with the affiliates all across the country, asking, what can the local apartment association affiliates do for IROs? Do they have IROs in their area? Do they need help setting up access or toolkits? What are resources maybe we could give or offer to IROs to bring them into our membership so we can bring these 22 million units into our membership so we have more power on the Hill?
Totally. Yeah, that makes sense. So when it comes to being in the role you are, and you've been involved for a while now when it comes to NAA and all that, um, what are the biggest things that you see being barriers or challenges or opportunities?
For our industry, you think that's your
Hmm.
question? Yeah, I think for me, I think the public perception has been a real challenge the last couple of years, and that has been kind of a dark horse that's been coming, and people have been telling us for a while that we've needed to work on our public relations overall. Um, it's We get a bad rap. I mean, the common perception, especially on TikTok and Instagram, and some of the comments are that landlords are a really bad word, and that we are just out to just take people's money, and we have no hearts. And that really bugs me, because when you do go to IRM and when you do go to NAA, that's not the case. I mean, you couldn't find more giving people that are trying to give back and be ethical and give really good housing and understand they're building a community and they want people to be able to thrive in that. And although they make mistakes, I think they learn from them and try to adjust once they're aware of a blind spot or an issue. So I would say the public relation is number one. And I think that leads into legislation and why we're getting so much pressure and heat, which means it's just more important for people to get active, to pay attention to this, to rally around that. And then I also think that there's a barrier of how we sell our industry to the general public, and recruiting people into our industry. I hear it every day. I fell into this industry, like I just stumbled onto this multi-million dollar asset job,
Yeah.
and I'm like, let's not do that anymore. Like, you manage a multi-million dollar asset, own that. Be the boss of that. Boss up.
Hmm.
Like, I am a bad boss. I manage this multi-million dollar asset. I manage it well. I learn how to grow income. Like, I'm protecting it in legislation. And so I think we could sell it better to the folks that are looking at our industry and wondering if this is a career for me, because they do see it as just like a pass through industry. I can just fall into it. I can, just like I probably thought, I'll do this job till I find something better. And then once they're in it, they're like, I don't ever want to leave. There's so many opportunities, so many avenues. So I would say that's a big problem. If you're looking as like more of on a granular level and what's keeping people up at night besides legislation and rent control, fraud, application
Yeah.
fraud has just
Yeah.
been rough. And I mean, I've even experienced that. I say we've experienced that with smart moves. It's definitely been a huge uptick in the last 2 years, and I'm the one that screens the application, so it falls on me, and it's a lot tougher. I can say that from being in the trenches. It's not the same as it used to be.
Yeah, that's true. I know there's a lot of new tools though.
Yeah,
So if you need any
yeah.
recommendations, I know a few people that work in that way, in that space. So
I've heard them on the podcast and I wrote them
yeah,
down, and that's when I learned about I think it was the Approval Princess on TikTok, and I've leaned into some of those tools and shared them, and I also love that about our industry because I think we're really good, especially the prop tech community, at paying attention to the threats that we're talking about and then coming up with opportunities and solutions to fix them. And that's what makes us better. I think if we get better with sharing the data and making that more friendly. And I know that's been a huge conversation about freeing multifamily data. I think when we find those avenues to connect and do that, we're going to get the information quicker and we'll be able to solve these solutions better, smarter.
totally. Yeah, and I think the more we come together collectively, not just supplier versus operator, that we
Yes.
view it as more and more like certain aspects of the supplier community are so ingrained in what you're doing now
Yes.
that it needs to be we work together.
Evan, that's something that is, yes, that is something that is like, yes. And I think that we should have more of those conversations because I don't really understand why there's this line in the sand of you're a supplier, you can't play in this toolbox, or you can't come to this meeting or talk to these people, serve on this. I just don't understand that. I think it's borderline treating people differently based on where they work, and that's just wrong. It's wrong. We should be celebrating people based on the merit and what they bring to the industry. And I shared that I think on one of Adrian's polls, when they're talking about apartmentalize and how do these sessions get picked. And there are a lot of barriers for suppliers to be able to present at apartmentalize. All suppliers are like, amen. And I find that very confusing, especially when we're having conversations that the prop tech especially would be the experts around those conversations, and yet they're not being invited to that conversation, and the people that are talking about it are not experts on it. And I don't understand that, and that's not going to bring people to the audience, right? That's why they're having conversations outside, about things they want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, as an observer, as somebody that's been in the supplier world for a little while now, um, I think the biggest thing that's frustrating is it's so pay to play that you have big companies that are always being seen, always.
Right.
In order to be seen, you have to, it's almost like you have to raise money to be seen because you're like competing for the marketing space versus I have a really good idea that could help everybody. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And that just doesn't happen unless you pay somebody to be able to.
Right.
Well, I'll have
Yeah.
you know, I created this space so that I didn't have to pay people.
And it's genius. And I think, and people are thriving and following to it. So I do think that the bigger associations will pay attention, and I don't want to throw shade. I have sat in seat, as has my mom, on the education advisory board, and it is not an easy task to do. And there are a lot of hoops to jump through and things that you're paying attention. And one of the things that always kind of makes me crack up is year after year they get feedback from the conference that people want less panels, less panels. But as someone who is reviewing those submissions, all that are submitted are panels. And so it's like,
Mm,
you say you don't want it, then stop submitting that.
yeah. Okay. So
Do something different.
they want independent, just people facilitating a training, like
I
giving
don't
information and
I don't know, and Don can probably chime in. I don't know that they really even tell you what they want, but they don't want to see 4 and 6 people up on a stage talking and doing what they've always seen. I think they want more, maybe breakout, brainstorming tables where they're working with smart individuals, where they really could solve and come up with a solution and collaborate. Um, in in my opinion, I think that's more of what people are leaning towards.
yeah. I think it'd be cool to have that where you have just you have a bunch of tables, and maybe the tables are a subject,
Hmm.
and then you have subject experts, and those could be a combination of suppliers and on-site operators. And then you have this like they're kind of like facilitating the conversation, but people can come and they can give their feedback and learn. And
Right.
I mean, that kind of stuff, it builds more of a community aspect, and it also
Yeah.
has a better transference of knowledge versus like the couple people talking.
Right. And I think again, and I say, there was a lot of submissions this year, right? And it's like I love I'm a property professional too, but I am in no way an expert to talk about AI adoption or even the technology that's out there adopting it on my community. And to not have the prop tech community that actually provides the AI to be able to talk on and the experts around that to have that conversation is bizarre. I want to go to the conversation where the experts are talking and working, collaborating with each other. And I want to hear and learn from that, because I think that's, like you said, community. We're going to learn so much quicker, so much better, just so much more, as a team, as a community, and not just having someone speak at you. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, we're going to be at NAA. We're not speaking. I didn't even try. I I know that if
Well,
I wanted to speak, I would have to be invited to be a part of a panel and maybe facilitate or something. But
not
like by
necessarily.
myself, okay.
I mean, yeah, if you want to speak by yourself, I'm not going to say that will never happen. I would say it is more difficult, but you can always put together a panel, together. Just make sure that you've got property professionals on it. If you're
Yeah.
going to do a panel, try to make your panel smaller. And they do like it to be regional. So, I have written a lot. My mom has written a lot. As a company, we have written a lot. We have had a ton rejected too. So even though we have I think three sessions we'll be speaking at, this year in Apartmentalize. We
Wow.
had a lot of no's. But we also submitted like 8 in collaboration with other people. So it is kind of a quantity game.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I got no's, but I also got yeses. And our personal goal this year was to really, and it has been for the last few years, are to get new speakers, people that have never been on the stage or have not, that have wanted to speak at Apartmentalize that haven't. We've been able to partner them with seasoned speakers so that they do get get an opportunity to be at the table and share their voice. So there are many avenues you can get there. You just talk to me, talk to us. Several of us are out there that will help it become a reality if that's what you want.
Yeah. I don't even know what I would say. I mean, I don't know. I could
I
think
think
of something, but
you do a podcast every week, so I think you could do it.
yeah, I'm gaining lots of knowledge. I will say that. I'm talking to a lot of people, I'm learning a lot. I have a lot of insight I feel like I'm getting from various parts of the country and people and levels. So it's
Yeah,
been good from that standpoint, for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
So,
So what are the sessions you're going to be leading this year?
oh gosh, I should know. And I'm not going to be all three of them. I look at it as smart, altogether. So I am doing a session with Mary Gwynn and Eddie LaBouffe, on indicator lights with maintenance. So talking about metrics in technology. And we're going to be featuring Snapshot, which I heard about on your podcast. So one of those, see, it happens. Um, Talking that technology. We're also going to be working with, Betsy from BG and Mike Whaling from 30 Lines, talking about staffing and some of the challenges, big operators, small operators, that whole conversation. And then Dawn is going to be leading a really cool session, with one of our owners, the truck driver, Gordon,
Okay.
giving his perception as an independent rental owner. And she also has Kevin Dillon, who's with Bercadia. And if you're not familiar with who Bercadia is, they are like the main broker here in Michigan, but they're nationally known. They broker a lot of multifamily deals. So he's going to be joining the conversation talking about deals, how that's going, how are they financing these deals, how are independent rental owners getting some skin in the game and getting a seat at the table.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, look at you all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. We stay busy. We do.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, well, we'll have fun, and hopefully, in the midst of all your busyness, you'll be able to stop by our brunch that we do, or if not that, our, booth, the things that we're
Yes.
doing.
I will definitely be there this year.
Awesome. Um, Now, the really important thing to get to before we run out of time is the gifts, because
Yes.
it has been such a thing that you have dove into and gained from. So I would love to just talk about that and like why did you even start?
Yeah. So again, out of frustration, a lot of things come, but in the COVID mist, we were really leaning into Instagram stories, and I was frustrated generally in TikTok and Instagram that we couldn't brand our digital content. And so I had noticed in stories gifts and stickers, and I noticed realtors and, not celebrities, not Coca-Cola, not big brands that had these reaction gifts, and I'm like, so somebody can create these. These are not like unobtainable. And I put it out there in the universe, right? So I happened to be on Clubhouse, the audio only app, and I was in a room, and Izzy, the Giphy artist, happened to be in the audience, and she stepped on stage and she talked about the power of gifts and how she uses them for education. And I messaged her and I just said, could you do our logo? That's really all I was interested in at that point. And she did. I think it was like a budget of like $25. She gave us like 50 gifts. We did some reaction stickers. So I did like the heart and all of the things that you see that I use in our repertoire. And she loaded it on our Giphy account, and we used them passively on social media, and that was really it. Fast forward, I opened it a couple of months later and we had like 4 million views. And I'm like, what the heck? We've never had millions of views on any of our stuff. Like, this is crazy. Um, and so we started leaning into it more. We started uploading more of our canvas. We figured out you can animate canvas and upload them into Giphy. So we started uploading some of the educational stuff we had already created. And before we knew it, we had hit 13 million views.
Wow.
Um, and we just kept growing. The more we lean into it, the quicker we grow. So fast forward today, we had to take some down because they weren't relevant anymore, but we're at just about 33 million views on our Giphy account. And we use it in everything. We use it in our email blasts. We use it in our signature block. We use it in our comments. We've got the Giphy keyboard. We're always getting Giphy with it. And it has started so many good conversations. I get such positive feedback from it. I have been talking to people at NAA at Apartmentalize and had them run across the trade show floor and say, hey, I saw you in a sticker on someone's Instagram story. Tell me about that. And so I just love that branding and love that to be able to talk to them.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and like I said, I was a part of your session the other day, and immediately following, we created a Giphy account and
Yes.
then uploaded a bunch of stuff.
I will go check it out. But yes, and use them and keep creating. Um, it's it's a great community over there too. And if you want to learn more, you can always follow me. But at Izzy Inc. Studios on Instagram, that's our artist. She does do work. So if you ever need help with that, but she gives great ideas on her Instagram on things you can create or how you can use them.
Yeah. One and something that maybe people don't realize is they're really great for things like email, like you said,
Yes.
because you can't put a video in email, but you can put a GIF in email. So you
Yeah.
can, and it have to be a certain size, but if you put um, subtitles on a video and turn it into a GIF, now
Mhm.
you have a video in your email with the words they're saying, just no sound. Um, and I think there's even sound now.
Yeah,
If
they do.
I don't
They
haven't
have
figured that out yet, but
Yeah, they've got clips now, so you can actually upload an MP4 with audio and actually have like a sound bite too. So there is that capability as well. So I think there's just so many uses. And you're right, Evan. It uploads, and you can upload it as a picture, or as a JPEG essentially, and it'll work in most formats. I've even had it work on some of our internet listings. So
yeah. Yeah, and movement and pictures like that look like a video are way more interactive and do better than something that's just a picture or
exactly.
so it's actually very handy. And
Yeah.
you don't even have to put it on Giphy. It can be just you create a GIF. It's a
Yeah.
file. You add it to something like a email.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can upload them into Tenor too. So I mean that's something that we're leaning now is we're starting to upload our GIFs into a Tenor account, like we have with Giphy, so we can build out and get more views there. Why not?
Nice. Yeah. No, that's fun. Yeah, so get Giphy with it, people.
Yeah.
Go start a Giphy account, a Tenor account, or just start making GIFs. You can make GIFs on, let's see, Canva. You can make GIFs. I don't know what other platforms. I'm sure other Photoshop uh, platforms allow you to do it now too. But
Yeah.
it's pretty easy, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sometimes it's just saving it as a different file. It
Right.
can be that simple. It's just instead of saving it as a PDF or a JPEG, you save it as a GIF, and it does
Yeah.
it.
And it just brings some fun. You
Yeah.
can put a bouncy version of yourself or movement or like you did with the heart, and you can put that over the interlace it with other content or as a layer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
just brings some fun to the mix too.
I agree. I agree.
Well, I think that pretty much covers everything. I think we nailed everything for the most part. You said something about learning diversity and meeting people. I mean, that kind of goes with a lot of what we were talking about. We didn't explicitly say
Yeah.
it as that, but I would
Yeah.
say that basically covered it as well. So I just want to say thank you for being here and being a guest. I mean, I'm just so happy to have you because I'm thankful for you've told people about our company. You've worn the Boss Bling in, like I said, in random places, and I see these pictures, and I'm like, this is fantastic. And so I just really appreciate you, and I wanted to say thank you. And I want to say thank you by having you on Boss Talks.
Thank you, Evan, and thanks, Boss Talks and Community Boss, and keep doing what you're doing. This it went by so quick. I had fun, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you being here and taking the time to be here. And for everybody that watched, thank you for participating and giving us,
Thank
uh,
you.
comments and liking and all the things and just viewing it. And for all those that watch after the show, thank you as well. But if you want to be on Boss Talks, you can. This is an open platform. I want people to have the opportunity to share why they're a boss, why they're a leader, why they are passionate about what they're doing. And you don't have to be a CEO, but you can be. But you could just be a leasing agent starting out, brand new in the industry, like she was back when she just got started. So if you are passionate about what you're doing, where you are, I'd love to meet you and talk to you and give you a platform. So reach out and we can do that. But this has been Boss Talks 81. Make sure you tune in next week for another great episode, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.